Well, fighting over the weekend has unraveled the shaky ceasefire in Syria. Druze and Christian civilians have been reportedly massacred at the hands of jihadist militias.
In Judea and Samaria, tensions are rising over accusations that Israeli settlers are attacking Palestinians. And Israelis living in the land say they're facing constant attacks by Arab terrorists. Chuck Holton has the story from Jerusalem.
In Syria's Sweida province, the ceasefire is rapidly deteriorating. Over 1,000 civilians have been killed, mostly Druze, but also Christians. Among the dead, Pastor Khaled Mzher of the Good Shepherd Evangelical Church, murdered along with his entire extended family by pro-regime jihadist militias in As-Suwayda. The atrocity has mobilized outrage across Israel's 150,000-strong Druze community, many of whom are demanding action.
I can't stay still watching my relatives, my people being slaughtered without doing anything. I know I don't have military experience, but at least I would do what the minimum I can do to help my people.
Israel has responded with emergency medical aid, and they've also continued sporadic airstrikes in defense of the beleaguered Druze in Sweida. But Muslim countries like Turkey are condemning Israel's involvement.
I want to say this once again, clearly and plainly. Israel is a lawless, ruleless, unprincipled, spoiled, indulged, and frenzied terrorist state.
In Judea and Samaria, U.S. Ambassador Mike Huckabee visited the Christian village of Taibe this weekend after fires damaged its ancient church and cemetery. Some say the fires were started by Arabs targeting Israeli farmland, but local leaders continue to blame Jewish settlers.
It's solidarity with the people who just want to live their lives in peace, to be able to go to their own land, to be able to go to their place of worship.
Settler leaders argue that accusations of violence are often distorted and that Jewish communities are frequently under siege.
The Jewish communities of Judea and Samaria are victimized constantly, bombarded constantly by Arab terrorism and violence. In response, the level of violence perpetrated by Jews, although it is unfortunately not zero, and it should be, and we're working on getting it to zero, it is so small as to be off the charts. In comparison to the number of people in the population, it's something like 0.056.
Israelis living in Judea and Samaria say many of the reported attacks on Palestinians are simply Jews defending themselves from Palestinian-initiated violence.
By undermining the legitimacy of the Jewish communities in Judea and Samaria, you clear the way for creating a Palestinian state. And you undermine the settlers and connect them in all sorts of ways to the IDF. You essentially tarnish the moral standing of Israel's army.
With the ceasefire in Syria crumbling and competing claims fueling unrest in Judea and Samaria, the Middle East looks to be entering another volatile and unpredictable week. From Jerusalem, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Early in that piece, you saw a Muslim jihadist lifting a sword in the air. That's a symbol, and it's a symbol for jihad. You know, he's saying, we are going to conquer you with the sword. I've said for years, I'll say it again. Muhammad comes with a sword. Jesus comes with a cross. And the difference couldn't be more evident in the news that we're hearing today. What's underlying all of the violence in the Middle East is a jihadist ideology that calls for the elimination of the Jewish state. And in that, whenever you hear someone saying from the river to the sea, they are calling for genocide. They're calling for all the Jews to be slaughtered. There's a long history of this, and it goes all the way back to Khyber. That was another famous battle between Muhammad's army and a Jewish community in Saudi Arabia. This is before he conquered Mecca. He conquered a Jewish community of 10,000 with a force of around 1,400, and he slaughtered them. So that's what we're seeing. And for Israel to say we want to create a demilitarized zone, we're not going to let southern Syria turn into southern Lebanon and be a place for jihadists to launch attacks against us. This new government in Syria, they're trying to put a a nice face on it, but they're ISIS, and their ideology goes straight back to that. We need to pay attention to that. This isn't something that's going to be peaceful in the long run. And I applaud what Israel's trying to do in order to secure their own border.